Hey, good morning, everybody. Sitting in my rocking chair. Andy really likes this rocking chair. So, figured I'd sit in this and everybody about, some serious subjects. Um, Education. It's pretty much a travesty what they've done to our kids. And it's an opportunity for us all to take advantage of and explore different options. I know at home teaching was shunned and ridiculed and chastised everybody, in institutionally and governmentally and in education, for years they looked down upon anybody that would at home school. New York State, especially, and other states would do things to try to make it as difficult as they possibly could. Well, this year they forced vaccinations on people, and 26,000 children were discriminated against and forced to be educated at home by their parents for the first time ever, and they had to figure it out. But the parents were so worried and so concerned about the results and the implications of having to get forced vaccinations that they were forced into making a decision that they felt was best for their child. Now, that impacted their entire families. That impacted them being able to work and do what they could do effectively for their families. Being at home with kids all day is tough, as everybody knows. It's extremely tough. 26,000 parents they were forced to make that decision to at home school. So February, yeah, all the kids were told to stay home. Teachers were not given a plan on how to educate these kids remotely and virtually. Everything was on the fly. There was no plan. They were not prepared. Administrators didn't do anything, nationally. New York's, or on a state level, the state did not prepare anybody. They did not give guidelines, anything, nothing, the entire time. Teachers were left to figure it out on their own, as were parents who were teaching their children at home because they chose to. On a federal level, nobody gave any guidelines on what to do or how to do this, how to manage it. Nobody. How is that possible? Well, it's indicative of how this entire pandemic and fraud has been perpetrated. There's reaction, all kinds of reaction, but no proactive measures. And there's not even proactive measures that are being implemented and instituted after all of this. Very simple things like making sure that banks aren't, or that anybody has a loan doesn't have to pay that during a pandemic. That, taxes are all held. Nobody has to make a payment. And not just that it's put on hold, that whole time that there's a shutdown, you don't have to make a payment. From a health standpoint, there's been no plans nothing has been learned in these elderly care facilities. Nothing has been learned in the hospitals. And they're not applying anything new that they are learning or should have learned from this. And that extends to the schools. The schools have been off since February, and they haven't given parents any plan. They haven't given teachers any plan on how to handle things more effectively. It's very easy. I could come up with a plan. I have come up with plans to educate our kids at home. And the reason I came up with those is because the institution as it stands now, I support at-home schooling. I'm a huge fan of it. And I'll tell you why. The reason I support it is because studies all across the world show and prove that kids really only need about 2 hours of instruction every day. That's about it. And the most successful In the countries that are most successful with education, they only teach their kids with about 2 hours. Here in this country, if you talk to a teacher, they'll say most kids get about 2 to 3 hours of education throughout the school day. That they're there 6.5 hours, but most of it's just junk time. It's, you're going to gym, you're going to lunch, you're going to study hall, the kids are watching videos. There's a lot of junk time. It's about 2 to 3 hours of education. But teachers' unions and these school districts, what they've done is they want to insulate their jobs. So they keep the hours extended to 6.5 hours. When most kids really only benefit from a 2 to 3 hour, course day, depending on their age. So if you are considering teaching your child at home this year, I implore you to go to any one of the number of at-home schooling sites that are out there that are treasure troves of information. They provide you with all the support that you need, all the instruction that you need to make your child's at-home education experience as fulfilling and rewarding and as effective as it can be. And everybody says, well, Pete, I don't have 6.5 hours a day. You don't need 6.5 hours. You'll need somebody to watch your kid when you go to work, but you can do it. My buddy Andy, he did it. And so many other friends of mine. And he had to work full time. And his son, I think is a junior or he was a sophomore when he started. He did it. He's a single dad. Well, any of us can do it for that 2 hours a day. That 2.5 hours a day. Use those resources online for the at-home schooling for these different groups that are available. And it's going to help you immeasurably. Now, getting back to the school systems and what their plans are. Their plans are utterly and entirely destructive. The plan, wearing masks, 6 foot, distancing, which is impossible. Social distancing is impossible in a classroom in a school setting. So it's absurd to even think that you're going to continue to try to do that. Teachers are going to be rotating. So all they're trying to do right now is preserve and insulate the schools so that they can charge as much in taxes as they currently are and continue to increase those taxes on people. They're not going to lower them like they should. They should have been eliminated this past year for at least half of it. 50% should have been gone. But no, we were charged the same amount. There was no refund, administrators weren't administrating. These people and the teachers that I know, they taught for about an hour a day. That was it. An hour a day. And they all knew that they needed to pass every single one of their children. They were instructed that they had to pass every single one of their children in their classrooms. Their children, I forget the percentage. Some teachers had, I think 20%, 10% of the kids show up and doing the homework. All the kids knew they were going to be passed. They all knew it. So they weren't participating. They weren't doing anything. Teachers were they just threw their arms up. They didn't know what to do. Again, administrators, the state, the feds, they gave no plan for these teachers on how to conduct themselves. So now they're talking about putting the schools back and, the rotating and you go on this day and you go on this day and all this other nonsense, but they're still adhering to the 6.5 hour day, which we don't need to. They haven't come up with any plan for virtual or, remote learning at all. There's several organizations that have been doing it extremely effectively. Whatever any parent chooses to do for their child, whether it's at-home schooling themselves or utilizing the school district or utilizing any one of the number of remote schooling options that there are across the country right now, that is a parent's option. I support whichever one that you guys choose. I just say educate yourselves on, the benefits and the advantages and the disadvantages and the drawbacks of all of them so that you can make the decision that's best for you and your child. But at the end of the day, those crippling school taxes that we all pay. Here at my property, it's about $7,000. And then they increased my assessment by like 60%. And then my taxes were going to go up to like $10,000 or $11,000. Now they built a brand new facility behind Cheektowaga Central, a multi-million-dollar facility. And as you know, I'm not the only one. Your school district probably received the new multi-million-dollar facility as well, which begs the question, which company was going around selling this to each one of these school districts? Because doesn't it always seem odd that these things go in waves? It's like, well, who knows somebody at these levels that are being awarded these contracts all of a sudden for these brand new multi-million-dollar facilities that benefit only a handful of students, dozens of students. Like here at Cheektowaga Central, that facility, I don't know how much it cost. It had to have been at least $20 million. New stands, new turf, new surfaces, new lights, new everything. At least $20 million. I don't know what it cost, but at least. And this was replicated in district over district after district. And then it stopped because, well, now there's a pandemic, right? But when you look at it, and I evaluate, and I'm all for high school athletics. I talk about that all the time. I'm very supportive of children being involved because it's not only them, it's school morale, it's town morale. You have a lot of people that enjoy going over to the schools and watching these events, but not at the tune of $20 million or whatever it cost. And you have a football team at Cheektowaga Central that has maybe 24 kids, let's say. So they play at home 4 or 5 times a year. They'll have a JV team too. So there'll be maybe total of 10 or 12 games for 24 kids. $20 million facility. But it has baseball and it has softball incorporated into it as well. How many baseball and softball players are there? You want to combine all the JV and the varsity and the the boys and the girls teams, probably got about 100. So $20 million or however much it is at each one of these schools. Wasteful. That's what these little fiefdoms do. They don't want anybody to question their authority. They have superintendents and administrators and principals that it's all for the kids. It's all about the kids. Well, $20 million could have bought a whole lot of stuff for a whole lot of kids that are in need. Could have educated a whole lot of teachers on how to handle remote teaching. But no, instead it's a field that sits over there empty. And who's going to hold those people accountable? The people that made the decisions that wasted all that money? Nobody. But that elderly person sitting in the home across the street that had their assessment up by 60% so that they could pay for things like that, whose tax bill, even after STAR, is $5,000 or $6,000, but they get $10,000 from Social Security a year and hopefully a retirement. How do you explain that to them? Schools don't ever think about that. Town officials don't ever think about that. Highway employees, when they're not. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. They don't see that stuff. They just see they want to insulate and preserve their positions and their jobs. So getting back to the schools. No plan. Zero plan. All of the teachers that I know, and I know dozens of them, no plan from a state. These other remote learning facilities, they could have easily modeled what they were doing and instructed their passed that instruction on to their teachers, but they haven't. They didn't. They're waiting to see, what is the governor going to allow us to do? And it's wrong. And parents are left wondering, stressing out. The students, this is another, just like where we have an amazing opportunity in front of us to capture because of the fact that law enforcement is completely against these politicians and these decisions at this point, we have an amazing opportunity to also partner with teachers who hate what is happening to them. And they don't know what's going to happen to them. They're scared. They're absolutely terrified. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if their jobs are insulated or preserved at this point. They have no idea. You know, they thought they were good and set for life until retirement. Now that's all an unknown. And unnecessarily so. Senselessly so. None of this had to happen. None of it. Country after country has proven it. Fauci came out and said, kids are not at risk. Going back to school is not a risk. However, you still have all of these states and whoever is doing the guidelines saying that all these rotating schedules and social distancing, California's not going back to school, southern states aren't going back to school. So that leads me to my next point. What is that going to do to an entire generation of kids? They just lost out on whatever grade they were in. If you're a senior, you lost out on being able to do anything that you wanted to do. You know, the sports, the athletics, the different programs, the AP courses, the, after school activities, the clubs, all of that stuff gone, completely gone from them forever, stripped of them and taken from them forever. But educationally, these kids are being completely stripped and deprived of education because everybody is in this limbo zone. Don't be in a limbo zone, make a definitive decision. And if your school district is not going to make a definitive decision, then make the definitive decision for yourself and for your child to not cripple them, to not oppress their education. Because right now they were stripped of a full half year of education. A full half year. What does that do to our entire country? Our entire country educationally was eroded for a half year. Now they don't know what the plan is going to be, and they're shutting schools down for the untold future at this point. No idea when these schools are going to open back up. None. So how many more kids are going to be crippled by not having an education? Don't let your child be victimized. Don't let your child be one of them. Like I said, it takes about 2 hours of instruction, as admitted by all of the teachers that I know here in this area, as is exhibited by most of the countries who are doing very, very well educationally with their kids. You can do it, guys. You can put a plan together for your kids. Make it a priority. Make your kids an absolute priority. Don't let them be victimized by this system, by what's happening, by this tyranny. You know, we have also another incredible group of individuals that we need to educate and tell them and show them that what is happening to them. We have an incredible opportunity at our hands and at our disposal to say, kids, look at what they did to you. They stripped you of your education. They crippled you. They took away your friends. They took away and it's not, you show them the numbers. You know, it's not the virus that took that away, because so many of them are led to believe that. Show them that it was a communist regime and communist decisions rooted in communism, in tyranny, and fascism, and totalitarianism. These many dictators in each one of these states that love this power and get off on it. And their supporters will say, oh, well, no, they don't love the power. They just want to make sure everybody's safe. Everybody's safe. Nobody's dying. Oh, well, the cases are going up. Yeah, the cases of flu are going up too. 24 to 60 million every year in this country alone. Billions of people across the country get the flu every year. But it's not reported on a minute-by-minute basis. These kids, we have one of you want to call it the Great Reset? Let's call it the Great Reset. Absolutely. Let's call it the greatest reset ever. In giving our country back to each and every single one of us individually. Having an awakening that is monumental, that gives everything back to each one of us as it was intended. Tearing down every single one of these government agencies, these kids that have the strength because we empower them to show them what their rights are, and we educate them on what their rights are constitutionally. Let's have it the Great Reset. Let's have it be the Great Awakening. Let's use these teachers. Let's use the doctors that see the fraud. All of these medical professionals that see the fraud. Let's use everybody that is seeing this fraud. All the people who supported it. We have an amazing opportunity now, guys. I need to think about what it is that we need to do to make this happen, to get all of these people that don't know where to turn, where they can go, so that we can just have a flood of individuals that overwhelm every single town government, every single town police office, every single highway department, every single government agency, county government agency, state government agency, and we look at it and we evaluate it and we strip them all of their power, of all of the power that they had to perpetrate this on us. And we start to build it back up from where it should have been. Only essential government agencies, only essential government employees. And what that means is we evaluate and review every last little department to say, are you here to protect the people? Are you here to work for the people, by the people? And we make damn sure that every single one of these agencies works for us and only us, and are always accountable to us. And if they aren't, and if they decide to go rogue and go on their own, that we utilize the provisions that are provided to us in the Constitution, which is removal. You know, guys, it seems like we have an insurmountable task, and a lot of people tell me that. But what I say is this: I've been asking everybody, what is the one thing that you feel you can most effectively do? What is that one thing? Whatever after you think about it and you deliberate on it and you, is pontificate the right word? I don't know. I might be using that inappropriately. But whatever you decide is your strength that you can do, set out on doing it. If you want to talk to me, I've had so many individuals reach out to me and say, Pete, I need help with this. Now, is it frustrating when somebody asks me for help and then I start to provide them the help that they want to accomplish what it is that they do? I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit frustrating, but I don't get overwhelmed by that. I understand that life gets in the way. It's very difficult to take something on that is unknown. It's very difficult to add something in that isn't habit or routine. But it is absolutely necessary that each and every one of us start to do this. Because if we each do that one thing that we feel we are strong at, then we can start to impact not only our lives, but those around us in a way that we can seriously affect this. We can affect change. And then what we do, we can record and extend and share that information to others so that they can do the same thing. That's what I try to do with everything that I'm doing. I try to inform and educate. I want to empower people. I don't want to look to control them. I want them to have, I want to be able to share my skill sets and my experiences, all the pitfalls that I've had, because if it took me 2 or 3 months to experience all the pitfalls that I have with everything, to be able to get to a point where I can do what I need to do, with each category that I'm working in, and I can share that so somebody doesn't have to go through that 2-month learning curve, that is a gift to somebody. So I don't get frustrated, very frustrated anyways, when somebody asks me for help and then they're not able to do it. I'm just there. And I may reach out to them and say, hey, how is this going? Oh, I'm not able to do that. But how do we react, right? When we've reached out to somebody and we want to do something, but we haven't, whether for whatever reasons we procrastinated or we haven't made it a priority, we then feel guilty. You don't have to feel guilty. Because if you start today and you do a little something today, even though you wanted to start 2 months ago, you're still starting today. The failures are still invaluable lessons. They're invaluable because you learn how to not do those things. You learn how to be better, how to be stronger, how to work smarter, how to work more effectively by those failures. And you don't have to be discouraged by the time that elapsed that you lost. It's not lost time. It's not lost time at all, guys. It's time that you just weren't ready. You weren't prepared. You didn't have anybody guiding you, holding your hand, trying to figure out what it is that you can do. And now once you start taking that first step, and then that second step, and then that third step, now all of a sudden you have this book of experience and knowledge that you can pass on and share with other people in a real and meaningful and relevant way. And that's my whole goal and objective with every single thing I do. I can't be there for everybody. I try to be, but I can't be. I try to give you all, I try to be there whenever you need me, whenever anybody needs me, but you have to get to that point where you are there for yourself. And then you lean on me for support or whoever you need to for support. And then when you're educating whoever it is that you're educating and imparting your wisdom on, then they're going to need to lean on you. And in turn, with them leaning on you, that makes you stronger. That makes you better. That makes you wiser. Those are lessons that you're learning from them being the teacher that are invaluable. That they give you an insight into how to handle everything in a way that is so productive. And then that person goes out and it just radiates out. And it's beautiful. And it's amazing. And I've seen it happen so many times. You know, teachers see that. Coaches see that. You know, they love being able to see somebody that they taught or they coached that is doing that. That is like the best gift any coach or teacher can be given. But we don't look at life that way, right? If we raise our kids, we look at ourselves as though we're parents. But we don't take a look at ourselves as educators or as mentors, you know. But we are, and we can be to everybody in so many different aspects and facets of our lives. So, you know, a bunch of things I wanted to, but the focal point today was education and how a generation of kids in college, in high school, in middle school, in grammar schools across this country were crippled. They were deprived of education for half a year. And now that it's being extended again into an unknown territory and for an unknown period of time. Now, in my opinion, this is intentional and this is by design and plan. Because when you weaken, even though our educational system wasn't great, it was still good. But when you strip kids of education and our society's willingness to be educated and learn, what happens? Now you have people that don't know, they're not educated, and they become ignorant, they become lazy, and they become reliant on the government, which is the whole plan. It is criminal that they shut down our schools. It is absolutely criminal that they are shutting them down again. Make no mistake about it, guys. The attack that has been on all of us has been on our students and our educational system as well. They have all of the evidence, the evolving evidence. They have all the facts. They have all the science, all the other case studies on all these other countries that prove and illustrate that these kids can go to school and be educated. They have that. And yet here we are, still stripping and depriving our kids of their right to an education. And they're still charging us 100% taxes. And they have the audacity and the nerve to not only not refund our money from last year, but to increase our taxes for this year. That's their game, guys. It's never going back unless we take it back. They are going to continue to push and push and take as much as they can. A lot to think about, guys. I hope it helps some of you. Share the video. I'm hearing a lot of people and seeing a lot of people share the video. Get this out to as many people as you can. Educate them. I'm going to start trying to do these videos on BitChute, and I'm going to start trying to do these on YouTube and sharing them in many social media platforms as I can so that it can be. And I really appreciate you guys telling me how much these help. And that, you know, it feels good to know that some of you guys are like, this is what I'm tuning into for the day. So I tried to keep this one a little bit shorter. It went a little bit longer, but good morning, everybody. Have a great morning. Have a great day. Love you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.